Well, hello my friends. Welcome back to the Water Feature Design Series. Today's video is all about helping you design the perfect water feature. So if you haven't decided on which water feature you want yet, I'll put a link to that video up there. Once you know, this is the video you want next. I'm going to discuss a lot of the things that we consider while helping our clients design the perfect water feature for them, things you might not have thought of. We're going to talk about some budgeting considerations. We're going to talk about how to put it in the perfect place. And I got a lot of other little things that we consider along the way that you should probably know about. Guys, I'm John Adams with Modern Design Aquascaping, and our team builds world-class ponds, fountains, and waterfalls out of natural stone and wood. And today it is my pleasure to educate you on how to put your water feature in the perfect place in the perfect way. Thanks for joining the Adams family. Stay tuned. The first thing we got to decide on is why. Why do you want a water feature? Why are you building this thing? Why are you contemplating putting this magical space in your yard? Because you can't design the perfect water feature until you know exactly why it's being built. So for me, talking to a client, what I'm trying to determine in our initial conversation is, what am I picking up on from them? Is it about the grandkids? Is it about the pets? Is it about you having something nice to look at out in the yard through the window? Is it more important for you from the inside than from the outside? You really have to dig into your own personal lifestyle and what your intentions are for this thing. So before you move forward with anything else, sit down with your pencil and paper and ask yourself some realistic questions. How am I going to use it? Am I really going to go outside and sit by this thing? I promise you will, more than you think, but realistically, if 95% of the time you're going to enjoy it from inside the house and it's like a picture frame from in there, then you're going to design a different water feature, obviously, than you would if 90% of the time you're going to be sitting outside by your waterfall. So get real with yourself, step one, and determine, why am I building this thing and how am I hoping to use it? How is it going to improve my lifestyle, and what are my expectations? Then we can move on to the next step. The very next thing I want to think about is, where's the best place to put it, my friends? You may have told yourself that you want to view it from outside, but walk around your house. Go in every single room that's facing the side of the house where you're going to put the water feature and ask yourself, can I see it from here? Can I position it so that I can see it from here? Is there a spot that I can view from every window on this side of the house? If that's possible, then your answer is yes. You're honing in on the best place to put it. Okay, next portion of our discussion is getting this thing in close proximity for maximum enjoyment. Now that you've thought about where can I see it from inside the house, go outside and in the space that you've decided is the vicinity of, determine how close can I get this thing to my living area. I put mine right up against the side of my house. Now, while you don't have to do that, closer is better. So consider that. The more that this thing touches your life, the more impact it's going to have on you, the more happiness and joy you're going to get from it. So a lot of people have this mindset of, let's put it out there in the yard where we can see it from everywhere. Slide it right on in against the side of the patio, in your face, guys. It's super important. Get that thing right up in your space. And the next thing I want to talk about is proper planning. You know, a lot of people just jump into this thing and put a water feature in and they don't have a master plan. I'm not saying that you have to spend forever putting together this elaborate, down to every single detail kind of plan, but know what the goal is, because you're going to design this thing differently if you're thinking about an entire outdoor living area. Then it needs to integrate properly into that. Now, from a designer standpoint, I always think a water feature design should feel like a water feature is here and everything else was built around it, because that's what was here. It was the natural, intelligent spot to put all these other things because of the water feature. So design the water feature properly and then ask yourself, is this part of a bigger picture? And get at least the concepts together so that you're pulling this whole thing together where it makes sense at the end. The last thing I want to talk about location-wise is a low spot. I can't tell you how many phone calls I get, my friends, from people who are like, hey, we got a low spot out here in the yard and we want to build a pond. And my answer to that is, a pond in a low spot is a retention pond. It's the place that catches all the crap that flows downhill. Realistically, if you want a beautiful ecosystem, pond, plants, fish, waterfall, etc., the last thing in the world you want is all the other junk running into it. So you want to situate it in a place where it looks organic and blends in. I'm sure you've all seen the volcano looking water feature that somebody just built a mound with water coming off of it. It looks horrible. But the natural low spot that you think is a good place for a water feature is not. So let's strike that one from your mind. So let's talk money a little bit. Let's say be realistic, because when you start out with your water feature design, you're going to spend more than you expect probably by the time you get to the end. Our team comes up with great ideas and all kinds of artsy-fartsy concepts throughout the process of a build. And I like people to leave room in their heart and in their pocket to accommodate for these things. So if you go max budget right off the bat, guess what's going to happen, my friends? Day one, the team's going to come up to you and go, well, we're getting ready to put a shovel in the ground. It's your last chance. You sure this is as big as you can make it? Oh, we got a great idea. We could add this second little waterfall over here. Oh my gosh, we could do this other lighting thing. Or we could put in aeration. Or we should add another fish cave. Or look at the way these boulders worked out. Blah, blah, blah. It goes on forever. So all kinds of great ideas come up along the way on a build. And each one comes with an individual price tag that's potentially going to increase the cost of your project. So think about that and leave a little room in your budget for great ideas along the way. Now, that being said, the other side of this coin is I would recommend you go as big as you can, because the single biggest thing that I hear from people after they build a water feature is, we wish we would have made it bigger. Honest to God, it is not a pitch. It is what I hear. They spend a little time with it and they're like, man, we wish we would have gone bigger. So I'm going to say think it through and make sure that you're doing it as big as you can, but still leaving yourself a little room in case you decide to leave, in case you decide to add something extra along the way. All right, so that being said, budget-wise, there's other expenses you should consider. Does your contractor cover certain costs, like running the power out to the feature? Our team does not run power. When we get done, we plug stuff into an extension cord most of the time and say, put power here. And when your pond gets built, the bigger and more elaborate it is, the more damage that's going to happen to your property. So I want to be asking you, is your contractor going to do lawn repair? Is he going to do irrigation repair? Often when we put a water feature in, it creates the need for another more specified micro environment around the water feature. That's another irrigation zone. And we might more than likely chop right through the center of an existing irrigation zone. So you're going to have pipes stubbed up out of the ground when we get through, and your irrigation guys are not only going to have to reconnect and reconfigure a zone, but they might have to add an additional zone. That would be an additional cost. Landscaping. Does your pond contractor do land plants or only aquatic plants? That is an additional consideration that you should take to heart before you get started as part of your master plan. What do I hear half the time from people is, now that I know how much I want to spend on my water feature, what it's going to cost to change my irrigation, what it's going to cost, I want to add a fire feature, and we want to put in a patio next to it as part of this outdoor living space. Ultimately the question comes out, can we do it in phases? And the answer is absolutely it can be done in phases, but it needs to be planned out from the beginning. I can tell you here at the Oasis, when we built my water feature, the one thing I said at the end is that I wish I would have built the waterfall and then stopped until I could do the whole rest of the feature, because we did this, we made a mess, and then we did that, and we made a mess, and then we did that, and we made a mess. It was hard on me mentally to deal with the mud over all this time, and a lot of our people got dogs, and the dogs are tracking mud in and out of the house. My friends, you want to think about this stuff and just make sure that you're making a logical, educated decision as you move forward with your water feature project. Let's just talk about a few more things that I think are super important for you. Access. We're working on a project in Colorado right now. I can't finish my job because it cuts off access. There's another guy who's got to do a construction project and all this fancy stuff on the pump house, and he can't get back there anymore once I build my last stream and waterfall. Guess what? That's an important thing to think about on the front end of your project. So consider access restrictions. What's going to happen once you build your water feature? Can you put it where you're putting it, because it might cut off some place that you need to be able to get to later? All things you want to think about on the front end. Staging's another thing for your project. You know, a lot of places there's tight access getting to the back, and then there's no place to put anything. So thinking about how big of a project you're making, you know, if money doesn't matter to you, then it's no big deal. But if you're working on a budget and you're trying to make intelligent budgetary decisions, then staging's going to come into play with how big of a thing are we doing and how much of an issue is it going to be to actually create said thing. So Keep that in mind as you're going through your mental designs. Call Before You Dig is our local location service here. My friends, you want to do that on the front end. Like, I would go ahead and tell you, do it before you even start designing, because the saddest thing is to go through this whole process of looking out your windows and figuring out where you're going to put it in the yard. And you get the contractor out and you're like, all right, I got it all designed. This is where I want to go with it. And then the thing happens, and right before you start construction, you call Before You Dig, and there's fiber optics right through the middle of the spot that you chose. Just go ahead and find out what's in the way in the ground before you start. That way you're not making plans that you're later going to be disappointed by. We already touched a little bit on the low spots, but runoff and low spots are a big thing that you should consider, because if you've got water coming down at your water feature, you might still put it where you want to put it, but you might have another job that you've created of diverting, capturing, moving water, whatever you got to do to handle the existing flow that's already there. Because the last thing you want to do is create a situation where you've trapped water, you can't handle it, or all the junk's dumping into your water feature, and now you can't keep your feature clean. So consider that as part of the overall plan. Am I creating a problem that needs to be dealt with during this construction project? Think about shade trees, guys. I'm no arborist, but I will tell you this. You don't want to kill your big mature trees. So you can build underneath trees. People ask me all the time, is the shade a better spot in the trees to build, or is full sun a better place to build? Yeah, there's pros and cons to all of that. There's not a wrong place to build a water feature. It's a different look building in the shade than it is in the sun. You get a whole new variety of landscaping plants, entirely different looking feature, super beautiful. But what you don't want to do is kill your stinking trees. Wildlife's another consideration. I tell you what, peoples, we got bears out here, and there's nothing worse than getting a phone call from somebody who had their water feature decimated by a bear. So if you're in a bear country, you need to build a bear water feature. That's just the thing. If you've got tons of chipmunks, you need to build your water feature as best you can to be chipmunk proof. So let's bring the government into this equation, as if building a water feature wasn't complicated enough. Did I mention how much I love the government? How about if we have permits and regulations, and you got to go to the building commission, and you got to go to the homeowners association, and there's this and there's that and the other thing, and the rules in your neighborhood about how deep water can be before you have to put a fence in, blah, 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 whatever. You know what I'm saying, but there's something in your area that you're going to have to deal with, and I highly recommend that you do a little anonymous digging to find out what rules are and how far can you bend them to keep the laws working in your favor. Anyways, I'm not telling you to do anything that's wrong, but I am telling you to make educated and intelligent decisions moving forward with your water feature project. Saying. Oh, wait, I forgot something. Do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me down there in the bottom what you want to know more about. What do you got questions about? What do you want to see videos about? How you liking this stuff? Am I helping you make the proper move into a water feature? Interact with me, man. I need somebody to talk to. It's just me and my iPhone shooting video and talking to the universe about ponds, fountains, and waterfalls. So throw me a little love down there. Anyways, back to the final thing, choosing the right contractor for your job. People call me from 600 miles away wanting a pump replaced. Wrong contractor for the job. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to hire a rocket surgeon if you need somebody to put a Band-Aid on. And you don't want to hire a Band-Aid specialist if you need a rocket surgeon. So let's just suffice it to say that I'm going to put a link to a video at the end of this that gives you a whole lot of good, usable advice on choosing the right contractor for your project. And I highly recommend that you guys make a little visit and watch that thing, because it's going to help you do the right thing and end up in the water feature of your dreams. I really appreciate you spending a little time with me. I know it's been a lot of me just yapping, but it's important stuff, and I want to make sure that when you guys take off towards your perfect water feature for you, that you're not making simple mistakes that I could have saved you from, thus videos like this. Thanks for joining the Adams family. John G. out.